A family of three decide to do some bonding in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere, which can only go well. However, Daddy comes down with a severe case of wolfitis. All the while, a bad dog man is trying to break into the cabin. It's a case of better the devil you used to know, in a night of survival in Wolfman.
Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Ball Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. That's right, Wolfman, directed by Leigh Whannell, known for being a co-creator of the Saw franchise, in which he even starred in the first installment. And going on to have a great directing career so far, with movies such as Insidious 3, Upgrade, and The Invisible Man. It's 1995, and we meet a father and son living in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. Old Dog Dad is teaching his young son hunting skills and survival. However, the turntables are a-spinning as the father and son soon become the hunted. We learn that a hiker went missing in the wilderness not so long ago, and now there seems to be some sort of man-wolf thing hunting animals and people. After a super tense scene of this creature huffing and puffing, father and son soon decide to get out of this unsettling scene. Fast forward 30 years later and young son Blake is all grown up. He's a struggling writer living in the big city with a family of his own. He has his young daughter, Ginger, and wifey Pooh's Charlotte, who is a boss bitch editor. Blake is then informed via mail that his father has been declared deceased, and decides to go up to his childhood cabin to clear it out. You see, Blake's marriage with Charlotte is on the rocks. So he thinks it's a good idea to have a bit of a getaway with the family. So he piles all three of them into the truck to head on to a cabin in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, that's filled with childhood trauma, which can only go well. On their way to the cabin in the woods, they bump into the creepiest man ever who's holding a rifle. Turns out that Blake did know this guy from his childhood. So he decides to get directions from him by having him sit in the car and point the way to go. After an awkward interaction with all the passengers, Blake sees a man-like wolf creature in the middle of the road, and decides to avoid hitting him, plows the truck into the woods. It's clear that something is hunting them all, in a very unsettling protagonist POV escape getaway. The family then stumble across Old Dog Dad's cabin in the woods, and they race and lock themselves inside as this creature is hot on their heels. They bunker down into the cabin and Blake begins a full-blown lockdown. However, it seems that Blakey boy has some wolf scratch fever, and a questionable wound shows up on his arm. The shit then hits the fan when Blake starts losing his teeth and his hair, his smell and hearing become superhuman advanced, and his night vision becomes off the charts, with everything he sees becoming a neon bukkake party. Almost like he's had some fear serum from the movie Batman Begins. While this is all happening, it's very clear that the creature is stalking the perimeter of the cabin. But as Blake gets sicker and sicker, Charlotte's having none of it! She decides that her husband is severe in need of help, and it's either be locked up in the cabin with her husband's condition, or take her chances with the creature outside. She decides it's time to escape the cabin, and it becomes a super tense stalker game of Where's the Wolf? This movie has some really creepy, unsettling imagery, I've got to say. And it's brought home with the darkness of the film, sometimes being a little bit too dark, I will admit. However, there's some really cool, creepy things in the corner of the frame or just out of shot, and you're playing a cheeky little game of, did I just see that? That part was very cool. I will say, though, that primarily the film is build, 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 build. And at the start of the film, it's all from the perspective of Blake, and then it kind of switches to Charlotte. But with all the build, though, the film does do tension quite well. There's also some nice setups and payoffs. I will say, though, that the film is beautifully shot. And there's some real clever camera work here and there, especially when the film goes from one character's POV and then switches to another. But if you're into seeing some rad camera work and a Leigh Whannell movie, I highly recommend Upgrade. The film does something really cool and unique with not only showing you the point of view of the human characters, but also the POV of the werewolf and its experience. I have to admit though, I think this is the best interpretation of a POV from a werewolf's perspective. You know, you see his ability to speak diminish, and he's becoming more and more animal-like. And something else I found pretty cool and unique as well is his inability to understand his wife as he progresses. Like, he's failing to understand English, and everything coming out of her mouth is kind of gibberish. Because everything he's hearing is kind of how a dog would experience a human talking to them. You know, as Eiffel mentioned, it's just gibberish. Like, you can't understand the words being said, but you can understand tone. I thought that was very cool. There is some good gore effects here and there, I must say. And I do appreciate this fresh take on a classic Universal monster. And if I'm not mistaken, I picked a few cheeky nods to previous installments, like Out of Wolf from 1994, and even Wolfman from 2010. I'd be interested to see if Leigh Whannell takes on another classic creature monster, because I really liked his Invisible Man remake. And this I didn't mind so much either. There's even a little bit of a twisty twist throughout the movie, but I did see it coming a mile away, and I'm pretty sure you will too. Yeah, it's not a bad movie, however, I do feel like it gets bogged down at an hour and 45 minutes. Like Eiffel mentioned, it's all build, 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 build. And Charlotte's discovering what's happening to Blake as the movie goes on, even though us as the audience know exactly what's happening. And one criticism I will say, I would have liked a bit more of a bigger showdown between Blake and the creature outside. This is not going to please a lot of people, I don't think. It's not as action-packed as you might think. I did like the tension though. I keep bringing that up because I think that was done quite well. And as Eiffel mentioned, the POV and experience from the werewolf's perspective. But ultimately the film was Charlotte discovering what's happening to her husband, even though, as I said, us as the audience know exactly what's happening. And for that it's a bit frustrating because we are ahead of the film. And when that happens in a movie, you kind of get a little bored. Anyway though, I didn't mind this film. I think it was okay, but again, it's not going to please everyone. But one thing I haven't mentioned though is the creature effects. They're pretty decent, I must say. But anyway guys, that's my cheeky little review of Wolfman. Write down below if you've seen it, what are your thoughts on it, but more importantly, what is your favourite werewolf movie? And of course, if you've made it this far into the episode, please give me a thumbs up because your love and support keeps me going, because I just love movies, and I assume you do as well. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe icon because I give an episode weekly, and I'll see you back here next week for the next review, but until then, stay spooky, kids.